Welcome back to another episode of Filming Things, joined by your host, Marcos Vaughn, DP and director. After posting my film, What You Remember, I gave you guys and gals a chance to ask me something to, familiarize yourself with the film and explain certain elements. After looking through all the questions, I've condensed them down into four to explore for today's episode. The first question I wanted to address is how I use and challenge conventions in the genre. My film, What You Remember, uses many conventions of psychological films, and it primarily focuses on mental instability and distorted reality of Asir. Asir can be seen talking to Zion, his best friend, who recently died, suggesting that Zion is a figment of his imagination. This convention is common in psychological films where characters experience hallucinations and a distortion of reality. This convention was used to show how much of a toll Zion's death took on Asir, and to show the audience the severity of his mental state, reinforcing the mood. The sound design is also a key convention used in my film. I chose to use a subtle underscoring while Asir and the therapist are having their conversation. I also decided to only use ambient background noise in the rest of the opening. This is commonly used in psychological films because silence makes scenes more intense, building tension and controlling audience's emotion. The minimal use of sound creates a sense of stillness as it's quieter than usual. This enhances the film's atmosphere, making it feel uneasy and uncomfortable. Using this convention makes the undertone score in the therapist scene feel more intentional and purposeful, enhancing the mood even more. The goal of this underscore is to add a sense of unease to the scene, breaking the calmness on purpose and reinforcing the tension. This film also uses mystery conventions like specifically withholding information. You can tell Asir is investigating something, but the audience cannot yet tell what it is. Their only hint is when Asir checks the therapist on one of his questions. This convention is used in mystery films to keep audiences in the dark, guessing, gradually revealing it later in the story, adding suspense and maintaining curiosity. I use this convention to let the audience piece together the story, even giving them a subtle hint when the therapist slipped up. This keeps them actively involved in the story and wondering what Asir is investigating and what he's preparing for, enhancing both attention and engagement. The next question I wanted to go over is how do I represent social groups in this film? What you remember highlights teens struggling with their mental health. This is most prevalent through the character Asir. He is dealing with a very traumatic event as his closest friend just died, and becomes skeptical of his own parents who sent him to a therapist he doesn't even trust. This is suggested as Asir is very reserved with the said therapist, showing he doesn't trust the therapist, even analyzing his questions and catching the therapist's mistake, which further lowers his trust in him. Asir's only comfort is the figment of Zion his mind conjured up. This shows that Asir is dealing with serious mental struggles because of the traumatic event. This matters because it represents the social group in a realistic way and allows people experiencing similar situations to Asir to relate with what he's going through. The third question I would like to go over is how did you engage with audiences with this film? In this film, I chose to take the approach of keeping the audience piecing the story together, as that's something I enjoy seeing in films. I do this by subtly introducing Zion in the first scene, with the audience not yet knowing who he is and why he disappears as Asir enters the therapist's office. I also add another piece when the therapist slips up and mentions that Zion died in a crash with the news reporter never mentioned, meaning he knows something he shouldn't. Especially after cutting the session short, the line that's added at the end of the therapist session when he says memory can be very unreliable under trauma is important, as it helps the audience piece together that the therapist is trying to gaslight Asir about Zion's death. This approach keeps the audience engaged and not just watching him, letting them interpret and question the plot. And last but not least, one of the most asked questions was, where can I watch What You Remember? I plan to take this to the next level and gain attention of high-end production companies, so I entered it into a film festivals, as well as posting it on YouTube. I also created a page where I posted the trailer as well as behind the scenes for this film, so my audience could feel a part of the process. I eventually hope to get this onto larger streaming services like HBO Max or Hulu. I chose these methods to reach my target audience. Services like HBO Max and Hulu are known for their story-rich psychological films, which appeals to the psychological film audiences, as well as film festivals, which cater to the people who like short film. And this also helps me get exposure for my work. And that's it, you guys. I thank you guys for tuning in for today's episode, and more will come. And that's everything.